What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Payne. Welcome back to another Final Fantasy 7 evercrisis video. Alright guys, gonna talk about stats and equipment and doing it correctly. Now, the R ability video that I put out 2 days ago brought up some very good points and questions. A lot of people were concerned about how the C abilities and how the stats should actually be stacked. So I'm going to show you guys some clear examples of why equipping correctly makes more sense and it can actually drive up your stats and help you get higher CP. A lot of people don't understand the stacking of stats and how it kind of works. So I'm going to walk you guys through this fairly quickly, but also I'm going to break things down so you guys fully understand how it all works. Okay, so first off, you guys see all your weapons here, right? You're going to see things that are 6 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, etc. Some of them are going to be higher stars, obviously. So this is the free-to-play account. And the way it's going to work, guys, is you're going to look at two different things. You're going to look at the R abilities, which do matter a lot, but you're also going to look at the stats, okay? And then lastly, you're going to, of course, look at the C abilities, which is your combat ability. So if you go to your party, for example, this is how you're going to build your character, and this is how you should build your character. So, for example, I've set up this team called Seph EX. This is for the Sephiroth EX fight, okay? Let's just use Sephiroth as an example of how to set up your gear. Now, before I go through with this, there's a nice little information button on top above character that kind of breaks everything down for you, right? Now, for those who have been playing this for about a month, some of you may know this, some of you may still be oblivious to it, but the C abilities are considered command abilities, which are going to be your actual command useful abilities, so the ones that take up your ATB bar. L abilities are your limit abilities, and then your R abilities are your enforcement abilities. Okay, those are your passives, essentially, right? We talked about R abilities already, but some things I want to point out real quick. The stats of main weapon, ability weapons, sub-weapons, and materia are reflected. 50% of a sub-weapon stats are reflected. So in your sub-equipment, 50% of those stats will be applied here. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, the main thing I want to talk about, though, is the main equipment and the secondary equipment, okay? So this is the one that's going to matter quite a bit to you guys. A lot of people are unfortunately confused about C abilities. The C ability of a main weapon does not get cut in half when you put it into a secondary slot, okay? Only your R abilities and your stats are cut in half, okay? So keep that in mind. So for example, let me show you guys something here. Okay, so right now, if you look at abilities, right? If you look at, let's say, boost M attack, right, is at this is 5 stars. This one gives you aerial frostblade here, gives you guys boost M attack, okay? It's pretty straightforward. I think you guys all understand that. Here we go. Right here, boost M attack. Right, if I take this and I swap it with Torn Wings, which actually doesn't give you M attack, what that gives you instead is boost attack, you're going to see a fairly big difference. So let's take a look again. M attack here is level 5, 44 points. Boost attack is level 2. Right now, if we swap the two of these, you're going to see a difference. Equip. Okay? If you go back down now, boost attack is level 4. M attack is also level 4. Now, why did that happen? Okay, so you can see here, though, it's 31 versus what it was before. If you go back here and put it back on, 31 versus 44. Right, level 5 versus level 4. So this got cut in 55%ish, right? While this is level 2 now becomes level 4. Now what ends up happening here, and a lot of people don't understand this, is it's okay to put your higher OB weapon, even if it's not the command ability you want, in the first slot. So look what happens here. Let's go back again. I'm going to re-equip this, okay? And you guys can see what I'm talking about. So aerial frostblade right here, the move, the C ability, isn't affected when it's sitting in the secondary slot. A lot of people don't understand that. They incorporate the 50% off to the C ability as well. That's actually not the case. So what you actually want to do here, guys, when you're equipping weapon is do this. So if you look at the stats, right, under the stats sheet, and you see the way it's set up now, if I were to swap these two, look at the difference. Not only does Torn Wing give me more physical attack, more magic attack, more physical defense, and heal, but it also raises my overall power without affecting Edge Wing's aerial frostblade, right? And then in the ability section, we go from, this becomes level 4 rather than level 5, but this gets boosted to level 4, and then physical defense also gets boosted, right? So you can see here, the only downfall of doing this is you lose level 4 versus level 5 magic attack, which is 100 magic 20% versus 100 magic 30%. So an extra 10% decrease, but in the boost here, you get yourself from level 2, which is 5% to 10%. So you're still getting yourself bonus stats anyways, and you can tell in the stats section, it in fact does boost everything else because the sword itself is a higher physical attack and magic attack and heal stat versus this sword here, which actually has less, right? So that's going to matter a lot, guys. So remember, when you're equipping stuff, it's okay to put the main weapon as the weapon that you plan not to use as much, and have your secondary weapon C ability that you care about more be in the secondary slot. The only thing you'll have to consider is, will it adjust your stats, and will it adjust the R abilities in a major way? Will it impact it in a major way, right? So that's very important to note. Now, something else I talked about, and unfortunately I guess I must have misspoken when I said it, is your support material, okay? So your support material will, of course, come from your primary weapon. So that's another factor here you have to consider. So if you look here at the edge wings, support material is attack, magic, and sigil boost, but the torn wings has attack, and heal, right? So those are going to also impact what you have equipped and where. So for example, here, let me go back. For Sephiroth, he has ability damage plus 10%. Now keep in mind, the ability damage is only affecting the materia that is equipped. It's not giving him a total 10% ability damage. So I think that's what people took from that. I must have misspoke, because like maybe 4 or 5 people mentioned that, and I think I maybe incorrectly said it, but the way it's supposed to work with support materia is whatever is equipped and linked to that materia will get an additional 10% ability damage, okay? Same with this slot here, also gets a 10% ability damage if it's obviously lit up. Here, it's a heal ability, right? So what you actually have to do here is put a cura or a healing ability. You'll notice it does in fact light up there, and it gives the healing ability an extra 20% boost. So keep that in mind, okay? Another thing to remember too with equipment is your garbs do matter, not only on your weapon, but overall for anything elementally appropriate. So for example, the Frostblade Arcanum here gives ice ability damage plus 35%. Remember, this also applies to your summons. Okay, a lot of people associate that with edged wings, but some people forget to equip Shiva, for example, on Sephiroth when they have that garb. Shiva will do 35% more ice damage because the garb gives that to all ice related damage, whether it's materia, whether it's weapons, or it's a summon. So keep that in mind when you're equipping it. So if you have the garb, for example, for the Murasame garb for Cloud, Judgment Bolt or Thunderlance is where you want to equip this instead, right? If somebody has a fire garb, you want to equip Hellfire, right? Etc. So it's very important, guys, to remember that. Now, another thing also to note here, if you go to sub-equipment, right here, let's go to Cloud for a sec, actually. There is the opposite effect as well, right? So for example here, Cloud is a physical attacking unit, right? If you look at his stats, currently he's got the Buster Sword and the Murasame. So let's just say I want to increase his stats by giving him the Shiva Sword. If I give him the Shiva Sword and take away the Buster Sword, it instantly increases his power quite drastically, right? If you look at it 1750 versus 1756, it increases his magic attack and his heal, but for some reason it drops his actual it drops his CP to 39. The reasoning behind that, right, versus 41, you guys can see that, right? And so why does it do that? That's going to be the question a lot of people are going to ask. Like, why does it do this? So let's just equip it for a sec. Like, see, it goes down to 39. The reason why it does that is because the Buster Sword actually has, right over here, HP plus 17. If you go back to this weapon, it has HP plus 22. Right? It's because if you look at the abilities, right here, the boost, and you put on the Buster Sword, it gives him Braver, right? Which isn't actually going to affect anything here in terms of CP. But if you look at the R abilities, it does lower HP a little bit, but it does give him the boost attack, which he doesn't have with the sword. So keep that in mind, that the CP is a little deceiving. This here is only giving you an extra 4 attack, but it's also boosting the CP power in total, where in fact the stats themselves are actually lower. So remember, when you're looking at this, don't only look at the total CP power, look also at the stats to see where the P attack, M attack, and the heal are being affected, right? So it's important, guys, to make that distinction between the two things. So I'm gonna put the Buster Sword back on just to keep things going the way they are. And also, if you take this off, for example, right? Look at that, look at the difference. It lowers physical attack, but gives them way more HP, way more magic attack, but in your CP grows, right? And again, you're losing the abilities here physical attack goes down, but you get boost HP plus 5. So remember, the R abilities will in fact dictate a lot of your CP. So make sure you don't just put on the best CP equipment. Make sure you equip things that make sense to your character. Because Cloud, if I want to do more DPS, Murasame is definitely staying in. Look at that. That's the 200 stat difference for Murasame versus the Shiva Sword, which increases everything else. But if he's a physical attacker and you want DPS, focus on this. So it's very important, guys, to understand what you're equipping and how you're equipping it and what slots you're putting them in, because it will make the difference between having a character built correctly versus a character with a lot of CP that stats don't make sense, and you're going to be doing way worse on your performance in terms of co-op or in terms of anything else you do in this game. So understanding your stats is very, very critical to your growth as a character. So remember, CP isn't always everything. Understanding how you want to build a character, for example, like Cloud and P attack versus Cloud having more HP, etc., it's completely up to you. But look at the HP difference, right? If it's a survival fight, then losing 200 physical attack might be okay to gain the rest of these stats here. So again, cater to your fights, cater to the way you want to build your character, but that's how stats work, guys. Remember, C abilities aren't cut in half. They're going to be the same in both the secondary slot and the first slot. It's the R abilities and the stats that get cut in half. So figure out which way is best to build your character, and don't be afraid to mix and match your secondary and your primary weapons to get better stats out of them. Alright guys, this is Payne. Hope this video was insightful. I know a lot of you know this, but some of you don't, and I think it's always good to put that information out there just in case. This is Payne. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you guys soon.